Welcome back to From the Shed End with a brand new video. Before we get into the content, please go and subscribe to the channel and smash that like button as well. And let me know your thoughts in the comments as well about our second game against Manchester City in such a short succession. But we have to play them again. We've played them in the Carabao Cup. We were unfortunate in that game at the Etihad. We lost obviously on Thursday against them in the Premier League. But now this is the FA Cup. And we know that Pep will rotate. We know that Graham Potter will have to rotate because of the injuries that were suffered against Man City on Thursday. But I do feel like this is a game that Pep will rotate. He will probably put out the same or very similar team that he did against us in the Carabao Cup. You'd expect to see the youngster Lewis in the team as well. Obviously they've got Gundogan who can come back in the team, Jack Grealish, Calvin Phillips, you'd expect potentially to get a bit more game time, who came off the bench on Thursday, and also Alvarez up front as well, obviously off the back of a World Cup winner with Argentina. So I think Pep has the luxury of rotating more so than Graham Potter, but I do think if there was a competition that Pep Guardiola is willing to drop, it potentially would have to be the FA Cup. He has a big importance around domestic trophies in any country that he's managed in, but I do feel the FA Cup is probably the lesser of the importance in terms of the Champions League and maybe even the Premier League should they catch Arsenal. But I do think this is a competition that Graham Potter has to take seriously. He has to give his all for this one. I think the fact that we have Borussia Dortmund, which is going to be a very difficult two-tie leg in terms of the Champions League, but I do feel this is a competition that Graham Potter has to focus on now. Top four is very unrealistic at the moment. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting that this season. We're out of the Carabao Cup. This is probably potentially our only last chance of a successful season, in my opinion. So we have to go for it. We have to go for it, in my opinion. So we're talking about team news. Now, obviously, Raheem Sterling came off injured in the Premier League game. So did Christian Pulisic. We know that Mason Mount has taken a knock as well. So there's 3 doubts already to an added extensive list of injuries already for Chelsea at the moment. So in my opinion, who would I start with? Who would I go with against Manchester City in the FA Cup? I would probably keep it very, very similar to how we started against Manchester City in the Premier League, but there are going to have to be some changes due to those injuries I've just mentioned. Kepa, I mean, is it a time we see Marcus Bettinelli come into the fold? Because after Kepa's performance against Man City on Thursday, there's a question around his ability to be able to save shots with his hands or his body or any part of anywhere that is allowed to touch the ball as a goalkeeper in the box. So do we keep Kepa in goal? It's a massive question mark. Edouard Mendy looks still to be injured, so it might be that Kepa retains his place in the fold for now. Who else have I gone for? So I've gone for Cesar Azpilicueta at right back, who didn't actually play that bad on Thursday. He didn't have the worst game, but he didn't have the best game either. So I've gone for Azpilicueta at right back. I've gone for Trevor Chalobah as my centre back with a pairing of Thiago Silva, who I feel, as I said in the podcast, should not be playing week in, week out. He should not be playing as many games as he is. He shouldn't be clocking up the most minutes for us as a centre back at the age of almost 39 years of age. But we are where we are. So I think we have to have Thiago Silva, who I felt contained Erling Haaland very well on Thursday. But I do feel this is going to be a totally different game if Haaland or even Julio Alvarez plays. I think we need to keep both of those type of players quiet, whoever starts for Man City. But I think with a partnership of Chalobah, who I've been very impressed with when he's been able to come in and play, he's done a job, he's delivered. I think with him and Silva next to each other, they complement each other well. Koulibaly is an option, but I do feel that he's very prone to mistakes. The odd yellow card, the penalty, you do sense that he's a bit prone to giving those kind of things away for us. So I think we need to be sensible. Like I said, this is our only opportunity now, realistically, to get silverware. We have to take it serious. Left back, obviously I've gone for 4 at the back, so I've gone for left back. I've gone for Lewis Hall, who I thought was outstanding when he came on at Stamford Bridge the other night. He looked really good. He knows how to get the ball forward. He wants to get the ball in the box, take on players. That's exactly what we need from a left back. Marc Cucurella defensively was poor, arguably at fault for the goal, and doesn't get the ball forward enough. So I think we need to, if we're going to do it, I thought Lewis Hall in the Carabao Cup game at the Etihad a few weeks ago was brilliant as well. was a really good battle between him and Lewis on the right side for Manchester City at right back. And I think we'll have the same battle again on Sunday as well. So I think that's a really good... it's going to be a really good battle between the two of them, should they both start in that position as well. The two in midfield have had to keep the same in terms of Denis Zakaria and Mateo Kovacic, who I think, again, both of them played really well on Thursday. Zakaria was a breath of fresh air. I like Jorginho, but when you see Zakaria come into that team, someone who, again, we all spoke about and said potentially, why have we signed him on loan? He's not playing, he's not getting the game time. Whenever he's played, he's looked comfortable on the ball. Solid midfield player, quick with his feet, good with his feet, knows how to pass the ball forward as well. So I like him. I like Kovacic for obvious reasons that I've mentioned on here on numerous occasions. He drives that ball forward. He's got the energy in midfield, and he picks out a decent pass every now and again. He has been woeful in terms of his passing a couple of times in the last couple of games, especially leading up to the World Cup. But I do think Kovacic is vital in that midfield. Some will argue maybe Jorginho needs to come back into the fold, but as I've said before on here, there's so much football to play in January. This is a time to potentially rest and start certain players that we might need to, keep wrapped in bubble wrap down the season. So I think Jorginho needs to sit this one out. I've gone for another three in front of Kai Havertz, who I've got starting an attack, but I've gone for Carney Chukwuemeka, I've gone for Mason Mount, and I've gone for Hakim Ziyech, who I think as those three in the attacking midfield roles, I think they can do a job. I thought Carney Chukwuemeka, again, another player that showed brilliant quality against Manchester City in the Premier League, and I think this is his opportunity now. Graham Potter has to start using some of these younger youth players in the team, and start incorporating them, blending them into the team, allowing them to show what they can do, giving the other players, the Mason Mounts or, a Christian Pulisic when he's fit, or even Kai Havertz, whoever it is, a reason to perform well. Because I think if you bring in a Carney Chukwuemeka and he starts playing well, we've seen it with Trevor Chalobah. He can play once he's in the team, he puts in a good shift and he doesn't complain when he's not in the team. And I think Carney Chukwuemeka, he's got the qualities and the attributes for me that he can go into that team, even with a weakened, I say weakened, but a lesser, back four for Man City. I think he can do a job. He done that on Thursday, so I think he's got all the qualities we need in midfield. Mason Mount, I think, needs to be played in this game. I think it's a toss-up between him and Conor Gallagher. I think both of them, you could either pick one or the two in there. I think Conor Gallagher, for me, is very erratic. And I said this in the previous video that I did. He's very erratic. You don't really know what Conor Gallagher's going to turn up. I think his willingness is there. He wants to try. He wants to do well. But I think he wants to do well a bit too much. And, in a game like this, you don't want to go down to 10 men. You don't want to get a player getting an early booking or, eventually getting sent off. And I think that could potentially happen with Conor Gallagher. I think Mason Mount playing in that number 10 role, let's see what he can do. I know he's mixed opinions with the fan base at the moment. I think for me, if he's a Chelsea player, he's available. If he's fully fit again to come back into the team, then we need to use him and utilise him and maybe bring Conor Gallagher off the bench if needs be. But I think, as I said, Carney Chukwuemeka, Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech on the right, who for me was the only player that was potentially trying to get that ball into the box, bar Lewis Hall when he came on. But the only player in that first half who was eager to get the ball in the box or take on a player, had a brilliant World Cup. He deserves his opportunity now to get into this Chelsea squad and cement himself as a first team regular for Graham Potter. I think he can do it in this game as well. Being optimistic for 2023, I think Hakim Ziyech, hopefully, if he can carry on the form that he did at the World Cup, should be able to do something on Sunday against Manchester City. Now, in attack, as I said before, I've gone for Kai Havertz, who is really our only option, unless we see some of the new signings in terms of Fofana, who potentially could come into the team. But I don't know whether that's even possible or whether he's in a position to be, starting on Sunday. But if he isn't, then I think we need to stick with Kai Havertz. Not my favourite fan opinion in terms of how he's been playing for us, and I've criticised him in the past couple of videos that I've done. But what other option do we have? I mean, we've watched Patrick Aubameyang be subbed on and subbed off. I think he had maybe half a dozen, maybe 12 touches or something like that in the game on Thursday. He hasn't really played well. He hasn't really lit up the team since October. I don't think he's scored since October. There's a lot of things that are going against Aubameyang at the moment, and I think is this a game you really want to risk him in, where he looks like his confidence has been shot to bits? He doesn't look like he wants to be at the club, maybe because of what's happened, whilst he signed, and obviously the change of manager. But we need to win this game 100%. I think this is the only way we can keep not just Graham Potter and the fans and trying to get the fans on board. As I said, there's a lot of fans at the moment that are disgruntled because of how we're playing. But I think this is an opportunity for Graham Potter to make a statement as the manager and say, look, these are the players that I trust. Some of it's youthful, some of it's got the experience in there from the defenders in terms of Silva and Kovacic in midfield. But this is an opportunity for Graham Potter to cement himself as the manager and say, look, times are hard, but we stick together and we grind out results. And if he can do that, and hopefully we can then progress in the Premier League the following weekend, I think we can do that. But this is a really crucial game. This is a moment where, Potter, the players can save Chelsea's season and hopefully give the fans something to cheer about at the end of the season, should we be able to lift the FA Cup. But Pep Guardiola will also be up for the game. He's a winner. As I said, I think there'll be a lot of changes for Man City. But when you think about it in hindsight, as I said about the Carabao Cup game, it doesn't really mean anything, because even their B team is such a bag of talent. It doesn't really matter who they put out. They've got two teams. So I think we have to be on the front foot for them as well. I think we have to play exactly how we did in the first half against them at Stamford Bridge. We have to take the game to them. We have to take these chances and create chances as well, which is another thing I spoke about that we're not really doing at the moment. But we have to try and do that. We have to try and get the ball forward as opposed to sideways and backwards. And I think if Mason Mount or Conor Gallagher does start, they have a massive role to play in that midfield, trying to link up the play with Carney Chukwuemeka and Hakim Ziyech, and also feeding that ball into Hakim Ziyech as well. So my prediction for the game, I'm hopeful. I'm going to say 2-1 to Chelsea. I did say 5-1 in the Premier League game and obviously got that completely wrong. But I'm going to go for 2-1 against for Chelsea against Man City. FA Cup, Sunday, 4:30. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about what you think the result will be, and let me know what your predicted lineup will be as well going into that game. This has been T-Dot. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.